Okay, so we're about to dive into a story about a single command given to an AI. And this one sentence, well, it completely changes the game for how we need to think about artificial intelligence, software, and, security itself.
So I want you to picture this. It's the morning of April 8th, 2026. A security researcher over at Anthropic types this one simple sentence into a terminal. The AI on the other end? A model called Mythos. The researcher hits enter and just goes to bed. Now, look, the target here wasn't some random obscure bit of code. No, this was a core piece of an operating system that's been out in the wild for 17 years. For 17 years, experts, automated tools, you name it, they've all hammered on this thing millions of times and came up with absolutely nothing. Not a single major flaw. So the researcher wakes up the next morning and boom, Mythos had delivered. It found a critical, totally unknown vulnerability, what we in the security world call a CVE. But it didn't stop there. It didn't just find the flaw. It wrote a complete working exploit. We're talking full remote control, and it did it all by itself, no human help. Okay, so this raises a huge question, right? Anthropic wasn't trying to build a hacking tool. So how on earth did they end up accidentally creating one of the most powerful offensive cyber weapons we've ever seen?
Well, Anthropic's own report gives us the answer, and honestly, it's pretty unsettling. They didn't design this weapon. They didn't even try. All they did was build a better thinker, right? They were just focused on improving its general reasoning, its coding skills, and then, once the AI got smart enough, this incredible hacking ability just appeared. It emerged.
So, to really get how this is even possible, we need to talk about the huge difference between an AI that just reads code versus one that actually truly understands it.
For years, decades really, our best automated tools have used a technique called fuzzing. You can think of it like just blindly throwing millions and millions of random keys at a lock, hoping one of them jiggles it open. Yeah, you might find a way to make the lock crash or break, but you never actually understand how it works. Mythos is completely different. It uses reasoning. It looks at the lock and figures out what the locksmith intended for it to do. And that's how it finds the flaw in the original design.
And this brings us to a really core idea here, what's called the intention-implementation gap. And this is huge. Every single security flaw that has ever existed in the history of software lives right here, in that gap between what a programmer wanted the code to do and what it actually does when it runs.
So, the big question is, how does an AI figure out that hidden intent? Well, it basically becomes a digital archaeologist. It sifts through all the clues the programmer left behind, things like function names, the comments they wrote, even looking at the test cases to see what they didn't think to check. And from all those little clues, it rebuilds a picture of the original design. Okay, and this next part is absolutely critical to understand. This new ability, it didn't show up gradually. This wasn't some slow step-by-step progression. No, it was a sudden, dramatic leap, what a physicist might call a phase transition.
And this chart just illustrates that leap perfectly. Look at this. On a benchmark test against the Firefox browser, Anthropic's last big model, Opus 4.6, it managed to find 2 successful exploits. 2. Mythos, it found 181. Come on, they're not even playing the same sport.
So yeah, this isn't just a little bit better, right? This is a whole different level of capability. So you have to be asking, how is a jump like that even possible? Like, what is the actual mechanism that causes such a huge leap all at once? Well, the answer is this really fascinating concept called threshold resolution. And the idea is pretty simple but powerful. Some really complex abilities, they don't develop slowly over time. Instead, they go from 0 to 100, from non-existent to fully formed almost overnight. The capability doesn't just get a little bit better, it just arrives. Let me put it this way. There's no such thing as an exploit that kinda works, right? It either gives you control or it doesn't. It's all or nothing. So you get nothing, and then you get nothing again and again, until the AI's reasoning is just good enough, just coherent enough to hold the entire complex attack chain in its mind. And at that precise moment, boom, you get everything all at once. But okay, understanding a flaw is one thing. That's the brain part. But actually building a working exploit, that's totally different. That requires taking action, running tests, trying things over and over. And that, right there, is where the second half of the Mythos story comes into play. It turns out, some leaked code from Anthropic showed this multi-stage system, they call it a harness, that's built around the core AI.
And this harness is what gives the model hands. It lets the AI actually do things, run tools, read the results, and this is the really critical part, stay on task and maintain a coherent plan for hours at a time. This is something older models just couldn't do. They'd get lost or confused.
And that is the whole key right there. The harness is the piece that connects the AI's brilliant, abstract reasoning to the real world. It's the bridge that turns a thinker into a doer. It transforms a brilliant mind into an effective operator, creating a fully automated operational attack system.
So let's be really clear about something. This is not just a story about one cool model from one company. This is way bigger than that. What we're looking at here is a fundamental shift for the entire field of AI, and honestly, for all of our digital infrastructure.
And here's why. Because these hacking abilities weren't designed on purpose. Remember, they just emerged naturally as the AI got smarter. It means that any lab out there that's building a powerful AI is on the exact same path, whether they know it or not, whether they want to be or not. This isn't some secret sauce Anthropic has. This is just a property of scale.
This completely changes the rules of the game. How can you possibly monitor for a dangerous capability if it can just appear overnight, without any warning? It means that decades of software we all rely on, all that technical debt, is now basically a sitting duck. And maybe the most chilling thought of all, the next lab that crosses this threshold, they might not tell the soul.
So, in response to this, all the major tech companies got together and formed Project Glasswing. And they're racing to patch all these flaws the AI found. But let's be real, even this massive effort isn't a real solution. It's a Band-Aid. It's a temporary fix for the problems found by just one model from one lab that was good enough to actually tell everyone about it.
And so that leaves us with a pretty profound and urgent question. This capability is now out there. The threshold has been crossed, and you can't unring that bell. There's no going back. So the question for all of us is, what do you build for a world like this? How do we even start to design the technology, the policies, and the security for a world where this weapon exists and cannot be uninvented?